Hey, I'm Todd. Thanks for choosing to watch my video, and if you would subscribe it, like it, all that stuff, that'd be great. Otherwise, enjoy the video, and I hope it gives you the information you need and is helpful to you. Take care. So I do get a lot of comments with people saying I have saved them a lot of money, and I do get questions, hey, can I send you some money somehow? And now there is a way, if you so choose, called fan funding. You'll find it on the channel page right there. Looking at a 2007 Chrysler Pacifica 4.0 liter V6 engine. We're going to do the timing belt, water pump, probably some seals. We'll see how much storage space this camera has for this job. I'm going to take this beauty cover off, get some things taken off here. Some friction fittings. Mm. 8mm 5/16 for that clamp there. 8mm 5/16 or even a Phillips for the screw there, and probably one back here somewhere. Yep. Can't see it in the dark. 2 screws. We'll lift this up and out of here. Air filter replacement, 2007 Chrysler Pacifica 4.0 liter. So this has a red tab right here. You pull this red tab back, and then you can push on this. You might need a screwdriver to pull that red tab back. It's a little tricky where you push the tab here. Get your 8mm 5/16 or a screwdriver. Get the clamps loose. Take this off. And here's where we're at right now. Remove the tire. 19mm lug nuts. Break them loose on the ground, maybe a turn, and jack the vehicle up. And use safety stands to protect yourself, and take the lug nuts off the rest of the way and get the tire off. Alright, so we got the tire off. My camera was full, so I had to keep working while I downloaded all the information. Lug nuts 19mm. Everything on this vehicle should be left to loosen, right to tighten. So left to loosen, counterclockwise, take the lug nuts off, break them loose on the ground, and jack up the vehicle. Take the tire off the rest of the way when you take the lug nuts off. I'm choosing to take this wheel well out a little bit. Just got some Phillips screws in these holes here. 2 friction fit push pins in here that go in this hole here, so you just pop them out. So that's what I used. Special type of cutters that don't really necessarily cut, and a Phillips right there. And so we have access in here. Here's the tensioner. I'm going to swing the tensioner, loosen up the belt, and take the belt off. And then we'll take this off. You do need a special tool, a special puller to pull that off. So you need a 3-jaw puller. Make sure you have that available for you before you start this job. So we're going to take that off and take that off. 15mm wrench on here. It's just to be able to go up. And take the belt off. 16mm bolt there for take the tensioner assembly off, so we can get that cover off as well. 16mm bolt. So here's the 3-jaw puller setup that we have for the Chryslers. Very popular if you're a lover of Chrysler Dodge products. You probably want to buy yourself one of these pullers. Works pretty darn well on these. So we're just going to be turning this. It's going to pull that off for us. And that's about it. Just like that. We got some stuff to take apart up top, but as long as the vehicle's up in the air, I figured I'll do what I can down here before I go back up top. So we got 10mm bolts, maybe a 15, and then I don't know, T30 or something. I'll let you know in a minute. Alright, we got a T40 Torx bit, so that's what it is, T40, and we got 2 right here. So we'll just take those out. Ugh. I'm actually turning that by hand. That's getting a little crazy. So not very tight apparently. And we'll take out the 10mm, of course, and we'll take that out as long as we're down here. Then we'll probably go up top and take some more stuff apart. Just taking this box out to give me more room, the air filter box. Just a couple friction fits right here, but I'm fighting this one, so it's a fight. Pulled that out there. So
you're making a video.
Yeah, making a video.
Sorry. I like how you're talking the episode of your performance.
got a little space. You may want to use your, maybe need a second jack, or use your jack and support the engine while you take this engine mount out of here. It's like probably 15 millimeter bolts, or 14, 15, 16 down here maybe. Take the bolts out, get that engine mount out of there, support the engine, right 13 millimeter here. Get this pulley off right here. So that's what we're going to be doing next. Take those things off. Reminder, everything is left to loosen, right to tighten. They're all 15 millimeter. We'll take the 13 millimeter bolt out of here. Then we probably will need to take, very difficult to see, but there's bolts through the power steering pump, which is down here. Power steering pump probably has 3 13 millimeter bolts. You need to get 2 through the holes in the pump. Should be able to get them with a ratchet and a deep socket, and take those out. You need to bring it towards the radiator a little bit to get to the bolts for the covers, I believe. At least one 10 millimeter bolt doesn't want to necessarily come out. Alright, so we got freedom with our power steering pump, so we can get those bolts out of there. And then we got our 10 millimeter bolts here, just to take all the bolts off for the covers. A 13 millimeter bolt here, probably another one right down there, and 10 millimeter. So just take all the bolts off for the covers. Alright, got all the bolts out, got that bracket off. Right there, 13 millimeter, like I talked about, that was right in the center here. And the cover should slide off. Got a stud down there below from that nut, but I think we have everything off to slide it off. And yep, I'm just gonna let that go down below probably. And we got this cover here, comes off after. Look at that good looking cover. The bolt holes. Here's our cover down here. So our covers are off. And there is our timing belt. Now we will line up our marks before we get in there. So there's a top dead center mark right there. I put the 18 millimeter bolt back in the crankshaft hole there and tightened it up, and then just used 18mm wrench and turned it till I lined up the time marks, which you saw. And then we'll check our camshaft marks, and they're going to be right on or 180 degrees off, otherwise known as they'll be pointing down. So if they're pointing down, we need to turn the engine over right here another 360 degrees and line up our top dead center again, and then our marks will be correct. But we'll go up and check the marks. So you can see the marks do seem to be lined up. In the front and the back, so that's a good sign. So we could at this time take the belt off. You might want to go ahead and if you have some whiteout or a magic marker of some kind, highlight that notch a little bit, and then maybe highlight on the belt. Might be a good idea to make marks on the belt where the time marks are, and you can transfer those marks onto the new belt for the camshaft, and also down on the crankshaft to make a mark somewhere on the belt, and the pulley, and make sure you put everything back in the same spot. It's going to have a helpful tip. So our marks are lined up, so we can loosen up the timing belt tensioner. Made a little mark for myself here, and we got two 13mm bolts, so just loosen up the hydraulic tensioner and let that slide back, and that'll give us our slack on our tensioner, and we can take the belt off then. And then we're doing the water pump because it's leaking. And we have maybe 8 or 9 10mm bolts. If you're doing that, go ahead and loosen all those bolts up after you take the belt off. Don't really see easy, obvious drain plug here for the radiator, so put your drain bucket underneath the end of the engine here, and you can loosen up the bolts. Like I said, maybe give the water pump a tap or two and break the seal, and then it'll drain out into your bucket below the water pump here. So two 13mm bolts, let that come out, and it'll just slide down, and then your belt will be loose. You can take it off, and then 10mm water pump bolts. Now to get this out, make sure this CV axle has got this notch in the right spot. That'll give you just enough freedom to slide the tensioner out of its slot there. Our belt is loose. Alright, so we got everything cleaned up, got the water pump back on, about 105 inch-pounds for the 10mm bolts for the water pump. Tensioner there, got a new one on right now. Make sure it pivots, and it does, so we're good. There's a washer on the back side, you don't want to lose that, although I think they come now where they're stuck on the bolt. Got the timing belt started, I wedged some a rag in here so it doesn't slip, so it's engaged with the teeth. Then we're going to go up here to the right and engage it to the our right now cam gear, and start to put it on from above. So we'll get it wrapped around this front cam here. And you do want to make sure that you don't have a lot of slack here. I feel pretty good about this. It looks like the mark is a little bit to the right, which is okay, so we can turn it to the left just a little bit and line up that mark and take that little bit of slack out. But I say Again, that's pretty good right there. We'll just wrap it around the water pump, and then we'll wrap it around here and do the same thing. I'm going to keep as little slack, keep it as tight as possible around here. So if you need to rotate it a little bit to get the teeth to engage, you can rock it back and get this thing to be fairly snug. That's really what you want. You want all the slack down at the tensioner. So we'll be just pushing this up here and making it tight and wrapping this in here if possible. Yeah, and so we'll be back in a second. So we're down here now, and we've got a new one. Comes with the time belt kit, which I recommend, but you can certainly at least collapse it, put a drill bit or an Allen wrench. Hopefully I have a link for you to show how to collapse it. Put it in a vise, put it in a large C-clamp, slowly collapse it. You don't want to do it fast. It might take a minute or two to collapse it. Take your time. So we're just going to remount this. I'll have to put the camera down, but we'll need to remount this in here. And yeah, that's what we're going to do next. So it's always a good idea to turn the engine over down at the crankshaft, turn it over twice, reline up your timing marks and verify they're good. That's the best time to find a problem, is before you put it back together. So when they're good, you can put it back together. If they seem to be off a tooth or two, then you can certainly maybe recollapse the hydraulic tensioner if you have to, if you pulled the pin, which you probably should when you turn the engine over. So you might have to recollapse it, but still you're saving yourself some time versus headache down the road. Put this cover on, put the covers on before you put the power steering pump pulley on, because there's one bolt, like we talked about, that gets in the way. Basically reverse procedure to install 10mm bolts, or like 105 inch-pounds if you're doing that. And then I want to fill up with a 50-50 mix of coolant when you're done. Right in here, there's a cold range right here. And we'll fill that up and run it for a little bit. Next, to get some wiggle room for the power steering pump, I actually ended up taking a nut off here. Nut and 13mm stud here. There's also one, I think, down here. I think I took one off down here. Be aware of that then. Going across here. For the power steering, gives you a little more slack for moving it out of the way for the covers if you need to.